The first step is to download the app from the Play Store or the App Store. In the search field, we type 2D Scanner Pro. One word with no spaces. The app has this yellow icon. We install it and move on. We open the app and make sure the device is switched on. Then we tap the first button, Connect. Here we need to accept the permissions required for scanning over Bluetooth. On Android, the location permission is needed only to detect nearby Bluetooth devices. The app does not use your location for any other purpose. It is important to grant this permission so that the 2D scanner appears in the list of available devices. We tap on the device, the connection is made, and we are ready to continue. From now on, whenever we start the app and the device is switched on, the connection will be made instantly. Something we should do right from the start is set the language. Right now, we are going to use Italian, so all the menus will be in Italian, and when we open a link to the guide under Help, it will direct us to the help site in the corresponding language. This is the main menu. In the main menu, we see the symbol of the electronic level, which we will look at later on. But with this button, we can turn on the level, all right? Next, we have the battery to check the state of the battery, which, as we know, usually lasts at least 4 hours, although, since it is an 18650 battery, it can be replaced easily, even in the middle of a job. So there are no issues with battery life. We also see the operating temperature inside the 2D scanner. And then we have the option to use the app in dark mode. So let's look at the rest of the buttons in the main menu. The combo scan, let's say, is the most important scan, the one used most often, and we will go through it in detail later on. But let's take a look at the File Manager. The File Manager shows us a list of all the files we have scanned, and next to each scanned file, we naturally find the date, the time at which we made it, and we also find a small thumbnail of the survey scan we carried out. Among these files, only the final ones appear. That is, only those that, let's say, were saved at the end, when we closed our survey. However, since during a survey we have the option, both us and the system itself, to make intermediate automatic saves. If we wanted to view them and work on them, we can tick the Show Intermediate Saves box, and in that case, the intermediate saves will appear as well. What can we do in this menu? Once we have selected one or more files, what can we do with these files? We can share them. In other words, send them. If we did not send them at the moment of saving, we can send them now. We can delete them if we want to free up space and memory and no longer need them. Or we can even load them back into our combo scan and continue a survey on a file we had carried out earlier. Perhaps making a new scan joined by means of some stickers or corners, which we will see later. After the File Manager, we have a View Drawing button, which simply shows us the last scan we made. Then we have the Bubble Level button, which, as we said earlier, we can turn on right here at this point, but it can be turned on at any time using the icon in the toolbar. What do we see on the level? We see as a numerical value the pitch tilt, meaning the tilt along the longitudinal axis of the instrument. Let's say in the direction of the laser, as well as the roll, That is, the lateral tilt. The red circle indicates to us that, as long as the bubble stays inside this red circle, the 2D scanner manages to compensate mathematically for any errors from imperfect alignment. So, even if it is not perfectly level, the instrument still manages to calculate the distance as if it were horizontal. The moment the instrument is tilted by 90 degrees to produce a vertical section, so no longer a floor plan but a section, the level, which was spherical, becomes a toroidal bubble level. When we set it back into a horizontal position, the level will automatically become spherical again.
Livella elettronica automaticamente ritornerà a essere una livella sferica. Vediamo invece il pulsante utensili.
Now let's look at the Tools button.
Prima di iniziare qualsiasi scansione,
What can we do with the Tools button before starting any scan?
Intanto possiamo assegnare l'unità.
First of all, we can set the unit of measurement we want to use in our survey.
Poi abbiamo il pulsante terminale. Questo pulsante terminale,
Then we have the terminal button. This terminal button, let's say, is an option that the average user usually does not need to use, because it serves to access the software and the firmware in order to modify a number of parameters. This value, or rather these values, should never be modified except under the guidance of the manufacturer. Now, restore last file is a function that is currently inactive. Send log files, on the other hand, is a very important function. Send log files lets us send the manufacturer, via WhatsApp or email, everything we did during our work.
Tutto ciò che abbiamo fatto nel nostro lavoro. Carica firmware ci serve appunto nel caso venisse.
Upload firmware is useful precisely when new firmware is released and we need to update the instrument. We can load it through this function. Send all files and delete. All scan files let us delete all at once. Every file we have on the phone. The files related to scanning, of course, or send them all at once to WhatsApp, to an email of ours, and so on. These two functions down here are, in my view, very important to me as well. Why? What does export signal to DXF involve? Something we have not yet talked about, which we will discuss later, is that for every point it measures, this instrument lets us know the quality of the measurement it made. When does a measurement not have good quality? It does not have good quality when, for example, it hits a pane of glass, a mirror, or a steeply slanted surface where we have one wall slightly in front and another further back at the same time. In these cases, the signal is not as reliable, and so it has low quality. Therefore, if we ask to export the signal to DXF, it will tell us the quality of the measurement at every point. In our DXF file, around each point we measured, we will see a yellow circle. This circle, depending on its size, will tell us the quality of that point. If it is a point of excellent quality, the circle will be very small. If the circle is large, it means that point is not as reliable, and so we can make a first analysis of the survey we carried out. By contrast, this points at DXF as option determines how we want to export the scanned points to DXF in our survey. We have three options. First option, each point we measure will be an AutoCAD point, a precise point, independent from one another, on the same layer. Second option, polylines. That is, we have AutoCAD points only at isolated points, but we will also have a polyline joining all the points that lie on straight lines. If we decide to export both, we will have both the points at every point and the polyline joining all of those points. Naturally, in the DXF, they will be on two different layers, so I can always freeze one and view only the other. Finally, in the last box, we have the option to increase or decrease the size of the letters on all the buttons.
delle nostre visualizzazioni, no? Sto aumentando, di solito
I increase it. Usually a font size of 6 is enough.
sufficiente. In aiuto,
Under help, as I told you
prima,
before,
avremo il collegamento alla guida.
we will have the link to the online guide.
Su aiuto.
So, if I tap on help, I connect to the internet.
Automaticamente verrà
Provided I am connected to the internet, and the help will automatically appear in the corresponding language, and for the specific function the app is in at that moment.
Come vi spiegherò dopo, esiste anche una guida
As I will explain to you later, there is also interactive help within the app for the individual functions. That is, besides the online help, which also requires internet. I also have a help feature where by tapping a button, instructions appear in the drawing window. For how to use that button, how it is used and what it is for, we will see this later on. Finally, the privacy policy button shows a series of information and permissions that I must accept in order to use the instrument.